This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Vase Studios. As always, I always talk about, having interesting people on the podcast, people that are doing different things, that are doing things that are making an impact on the world. My next guest is Finnian Kelly. He's a internationally recognized speaker. He's a business mystic. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And he's also the founder of Intentionality.com. I mean, geez, what a web domain to have. And I always hear these people talk about, you have to have intentionality in what you're doing. And I think I know what that means, but he's here to explain about the real reasons why we should have intentionality in everything we do, from our business life, from our personal life, and everything in between. Please help me welcome Finnian Kelly. Finnian, thanks so much for being here. First of all, let me apologize. I know that we had we had to reschedule a bunch of times and technical things, but I'm glad you're here. I thought you were in Australia. I know you're Australian, but you're here in the States. Thanks for being here, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mike. And I believe everything happens for a reason. And perhaps the rescheduling was so we actually got to be on stage the other day in the metaverse together, straight after each other, which was super, super cool. And I loved your message, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm like, wait a minute. I know this guy. I think we're going to be connected. I know that we're already connected. And I was like, oh, hey, I know him. So I'm excited. Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. So let's just jump into it, man. So this whole thing of intentionality, I hear it a lot. I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, but I hear a lot of people on Clubhouse and talking about, you have to have intentionality. In fact, I've had a couple podcast guests say, hey, I want to set the tone and be intentional with what we're going to do today. In fact, didn't you do that at the speech that we were at? I thought you did. I think you might have. Yeah. All right. First of all, what is intentionality? Let's just get into it.
So I loved how you framed it to start with, is that we hear it all the time, but a lot of people don't actually know what it means. It's like a buzzword, what's happening, and we feel like we should know it, but we don't. So I define intentionality as defining how you want to feel and then taking deliberate action towards it. It's that combination of vision and action. Now, it's really important to get clear on what matters to you, because if you don't know what matters to you, then how do you actually make sure that you're doing the behaviors to link up with that? And we were having a conversation just before when we started about the difference between dreaming and visioning. Dreaming is very passive. You're not really clear on what you really want. You're just fantasizing a lot of the time. The visioning is a very active, creative state. And that's what intentionality is. It's a very active relationship with life.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so, I think a lot of us do just go about our lives just going through the steps and doing what we think we need to do without really truly thinking about the meaning behind it and why we're doing it. So for those of us, and I know I do that sometimes. I'm just like, all right, well, I just got to do this. And as you were saying this, I'm thinking, like, I love this, right? I love doing this, the podcast stuff. And I do it with intention, I think, right? And in fact, you and I talked about it a little bit earlier about my style. So for those who are looking to really kind of crystallize, what they're doing and why they're doing it, what are some of the things, I guess, to identify that they're not, and also in some of the techniques that they can use to be more intentional in whatever it is they're doing?
So I believe everything comes back to feelings. Feelings are what really matters. That's what we're looking for in life. We want to feel more positive emotions than negative ones. And often we believe a path will lead to a particular feeling, but often it's not true. So first we need to start seeing, well, what are we feeling? And if we're not feeling positive emotions, it's an indication that perhaps we're not living life with intentionality. Because someone who lives life with intentionality gets really clear on what they want to feel. They then go, what are the behaviors that drive that? What are the thoughts I need to be listening to? And what are the core beliefs I need to be syncing up with that? So we have this subconscious mind and a conscious mind. The subconscious is the almighty force that just makes sure that whatever we want happens in existence. And it happens without us really realizing it's going on. We know we have this because a lot of our decisions throughout the day, we're not really aware of it. So for example, when we're driving to work, brushing our teeth, these are all subconscious programs. We put them in, we learn the value of them. We know that brushing our teeth adds value. We program our subconscious and then it just happens automatically. We don't have to spend any energy thinking about it. And that's how our relationship with our conscious mind and our subconscious mind works. Conscious mind, get clear on what matters to you, and then program it. So then it's just happening behind the scenes. It's almost like the magic wonder of life. So with a person with intentionality, gets clear on those feelings and goes, oh, wow, if I'm not feeling the right way, perhaps I have a core belief that isn't serving me, a program which has been coded into me, perhaps by my parents, perhaps by society, religion, school, which isn't serving me. What is it that I want to feel? And what core belief that I need to have? And then how do I rewire it with deliberate behaviors? And that's really the practice of intentionality. And once you get connected to that, it's very, very liberating, because you realize that you really are in control of your life. Like that's the one thing, like how you want to feel, you can directly influence that by changing your behaviors. But the only way to do it is to get really clear on what matters. And I believe a lot of people don't do that is because they're scared that what if I get clear on what matters to me and then I don't actually get it? So they would rather just live in a default world. I'd rather have a go at it and miss out than actually just living someone else's program, because at least you're giving yourself a chance. It's that whole idea of Michael Jordan, like you'll never, what's that quote? Like you'll never
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, you won't get that shot unless you actually
miss
go for it.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Exactly. So that's really how we've got to live life. And I just really encourage people to just go for it. Like life is set up for you to feel incredible. It's not meant to be miserable, but we create a miserable life through either not going after what we want or becoming attached to certain things which are never going to serve us.
Now, boy, there's a lot to unpack out of what you just said. And the first thing is, well, geez, let's see. What's my question going to be? All right, let's talk about one of the things you said. You're talking about, you use the term programming, into your subconscious mind so that it becomes essentially non-volitional, and then you just do it, right? And that what you're really talking about is habit, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of great books out there about habit. There's a great book called The Power of Habit that I've read, and it's a great book I recommend everybody read. But let's talk about habits, good and bad. It's funny when listening to you, and I think we all kind of go through this, and I do as well, right? When I am conscious of my behavior and aware of my behavior, and it's not serving my purpose, I don't feel good mentally, physically, emotionally, and it happens, right? But I am pretty aware of what's going on, so I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not doing the things that I know I need to do in order to be happy. Talk about the work that's involved in one's habits and why they need to, kind of continually check themselves in order to maintain intentionality in their lives.
Well, you said the key word, which is that awareness. We can't make any change until we become aware of how we are directly contributing to our situation, to our environment, to our feelings. And so often we're just on autopilot. We're just not questioning. We're not thinking. We're so distracted by outside influences that we're not focusing on how we're actually feeling and how we're contributing to that. So that's the first practice, is what are we doing? And this is why things like meditation and breath and just walking in nature are so important, because suddenly you get connected to what are the sensations in your body? How are you feeling? What's happening? We need to be constantly checking in with ourselves. And when we do that, we might uncover, wow, I'm not feeling like I'm flourishing. I'm not feeling positive emotions. And that might be the impetus to start going, well, what's happening? Like, what am I doing to be able to do that? Because we all know that, like, I don't feel healthy or I don't feel fit. Well, what's happening there? It's because you've just been mindlessly eating or not moving.
Listen, I know I've gained weight. You don't need to tell me. I know that I've been eating a lot. Okay, we'll deal with that later. Okay.
All right. So you look beautiful. So that's the key is to having a practice of checking in. Now you could do that through journaling each day, like just allowing your pen to go to paper, and your subconscious will speak to you. It will give you little clues that things aren't going very well for you. Could be through meditation, through breath, or being in a situation where you're in a peer group and you share your experiences, and people can reflect back to you what they're experiencing from you. So that's definitely the first step. Then we need to have acceptance that.
Can I stop you for a second? Because I think about what you just said, and I think about my own life, right? Because that's the framework and that's the baseline for me. Is when we're talking about self-awareness. What are some of the triggers or some of the things that we should pay attention to as far as ourselves? Is it our happiness, or is it even kind of like what you had mentioned too? Is it our physical being? What are some of the things that we should be like, all right, something's not right here. Like, I need to do some sort of like self-evaluation.
Yeah, there's a combination. So one is like positive emotions. So happiness. Am I in more of a love state rather than a fear state? Am I at peace? Peace and joy are very, like, if you look at a lot of the religious texts, they talk about peace and joy, like two core emotions. Am I feeling peaceful? Like, I'm not all anxious. I'm not stressed out. I'm not anticipating and wondering. And at the same time, am I feeling the joy of life? Like, life, that's why we're here. Like, is these human experiences where we get to have the different senses. It's so we can actually have joy. So that's one good indication. Another is, how are we actually reacting? Are we responding or reacting to people? If we're in a constant state of reaction, we're getting triggered, we're behaving in a way that we don't really want to be, that's a really good check-in as well. A person who is living with intentionality, they respond rather than they react. They observe, oh, I just got triggered by an emotion. And they don't allow the automatic response to come out, the automatic reaction to come out. They take a breath and they go, well, what is it that I want to feel? And what's the behavior that's going to drive that? And I always talk about, in relationships, no one intentionally wants to hurt their partner. Like, we're generally in love with our partner. We don't want to hurt them. But what do? We hurt our partners all day long. And it's because we get triggered, sometimes because of some trauma, and then we react. Now, if you get really connected to the feelings that you want to feel, so for example, I want to feel peaceful, I want to feel playful, and I want to feel connected in my relationships. When I observe myself getting triggered and I want to just lash out with some snarky comment or shutting down or just storming out, I realize, well, this isn't going to serve me. That's not going to make me feel peaceful, playful, and connected. So I take a breath and go, what would lead to that? Or perhaps it's saying, I love you, or perhaps it's going in for a hug. And then that actually reaffirms the belief that I actually am in a connected and a loving relationship. So this is where that awareness is super important, because your whole time you're observing what sensations are coming up in my body, what's happening with my breath, what's happening with my feelings. And that gives you a really good indication of how you're actually living your life.
I do want to talk a little bit more about the work in a second. Again, we're on with Finnian Kelly. And man, if you're just listening to him, then you have to just feel good, man. I just feel good just like you're watching, man, he's got this cool hat on. She's got a great vibe with him. Again, if you'd like some more information about him, and look, next question I'm talking about is about the work. He works with people all over the world, and he helps people get through the process. I've learned throughout my life that you just can't do it all by yourself. You can read books, you can watch YouTube videos, but a lot of times the real success, the real breakthroughs happen when you work with people that really know what they're doing and they know how to get you and to the state you need to be in. So if you'd like some more information about Finnian, you can just go to Intentionality.com. Maybe what a website, man. Maybe we'll talk about how you got that site, man. That had to have been a tough one to get. Again, go to Intentionality.com. He's got a course there you can take advantage of. He does retreats. Obviously with COVID, things are changing a little bit, but I know that things are opening up, which is kind of cool. So go to Intentionality.com. And look, if you feel like you're kind of lost in life, you feel like you're not living with intentionality and or purpose, this might be something for you. A lot of times people are, like we talked about earlier, fearful of the things that they might find, but you might find that the things that you get through, it really might surprise you. So again, go to Intentionality.com.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
So the work, right? I know that you do retreats and you have courses that help people kind of get to where they need to go to. It is work though, right? I mean, there's no way around it. You're just not going to wake up in the morning and just be successful, right? And be happy. You have to work on it. Talk about that, and maybe even the resistance that people might have with doing the work.
Yeah, it's great. So it's interesting. So I actually try to substitute the word work with play.
Okay.
Because
I heard you say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Work can be very confronting. Like there's a connotation the language is powerful. Words are spells. Like literally words are spells. They often someone can say something to you and they put a spell on you because of that. And work it's been a connotation like, that's not that much fun. I have to do that. So play is a little bit more inviting, and it's playing with the elements of life, playing with yourself, and which is just a bit more fun. It's just something people try it on. So what's really important with the playing element is that I like to think of what Buddha talks about. Buddha talks of 3 levels of knowledge. The first level is where you have someone puts a scripture out and it's blind derivation. You just literally follow the scripture and you're just like, well, that's just the way it is, and I'm just going to follow that. Now, that can work in some elements, but we've also seen where that has been abused and it hasn't served people at all, because someone could just put something out and they just trust it and they end up living a life which isn't the right path for them. So there's limitations there. The second level of knowledge is the intellect, where there's a concept. I could share a concept right now and your intellect goes, oh yeah, I get that. I understand that. And that's where a lot of us are participating in the world right now. We read a book, we understand it, but then we don't do anything with it. We just go, oh yeah, I get that. And we feel really smart and we love it. And you hear these people, a lot of people on podcasts are doing this right now. I call it managed vernacular. They get the concepts and they talk about it, but you look at them and you're like, it doesn't seem like you've embodied this. Like it just doesn't feel completely right. And sometimes I've even been a victim of this. I'll compare myself because of what they're saying and I'll be like, wow, they're really speaking it. Like maybe I'm not as good as them. And then I realize, oh, hang on, no, there's another level. And that's the third level, which the Buddha talks about, panna wisdom, which is from your own experience. And that's all about, you get the concept, but then how do you apply it in your life? And actually, what do you learn from it? And that is more important than anything else. And if you look at most spiritual leaders, the Buddha's final text is, yes, listen to what I've said, but trust your own experience over anything I've said. It's like the final teaching, which unfortunately a lot of religious organizations forget to share, because then they lose a little bit of the power and control. So what I want people to be doing, and this is the play, is yes, listen to some of the things I share, but the most important is like, go play with it. Like go test it in your life and see what works for you and see what resonates and how it actually changes your experience, both psychological and physiological, and observe it. And that's the real key path with intentionality. And unfortunately, what we want to do, because we've trained the intellect to be so strong, is we become addicted of absorbing knowledge. Like the internet has just made life really easy. Even these podcasts and YouTube videos and everything, like you can just be constantly consuming things. And there's people who are doing that all the time. They're jumping from retreat to retreat to retreat, reading book after book after a book. But there's one step that's missing, the integration. How do you actually integrate this into your life? And sometimes it might be better just reading one book a year and really reading it and experiencing and trying it on rather than reading 10 books. So a book that I keep coming back to is the Tao Te Ching, great philosophical text. And it has so much substance in it. In this short book with a limited amount of words, you can read one verse and you could read that in 10 different ways over 10 days and have different experiences with it. And then look at how to apply it. And that's how I live my life now. I'm like, and I love, like, trust me, I have the intellect very strong too. I love consuming knowledge, but I really practice coming back and go, well, how do I actually apply that? And the Tao Te Ching is my grounding practice, is coming back to that and living that in the life. So
what is
so
it
that's
again?
the
It's
key part.
the Tao Te Ching.
Yeah, the Tao Te Ching. It's spelled TAOTE and then CHING.
Okay.
And it's a spiritual text which was from China. It's based on, they say it's a guy called Lao Tzu, who was a very, very wise being. And then he was just disgruntled with how society was moving. It was like going through the Confucius world. And he went, well, I'm just going to leave and become a hermit. And he left he was leaving China and he was leaving the Great Walls. And then the guard at the gate said, you can't leave. You have too much knowledge. You have to share this. And he was like, no, I just want to leave. And he said, well, I'm only going to let you leave if you leave some knowledge for us to be passed on. And he wrote the Tao Te Ching, and that's the mythical story that has kept it on going. And it's incredibly grounding. And the whole story is, it's all about being in the middle. It's not being the extremes. It's being in the middle and just being one with life. And it's incredible, powerful. So what I really want people to take from this is it's more about, rather than just getting the knowledge from someone else, it's about, what does this mean to you? And how can you apply this in your life? Because ultimately that's what matters.
You know, I think about you and your spirit, man. I mean, I know that we're not in the same room together, but you're just uplifting me, and just by having this conversation. But I'm guessing you probably always weren't like this. Was there a point in your life where you made a decision, like I think a lot of people, like, man, I'm not living with intention. I'm not happy. I don't have purpose. Talk a little bit about, kind of how your life transformed, and was that, in the moment where you decided to live with intentionality.
I feel really grateful you just shared that. And it's not it's not a natural state. Yes, I am. I've always had an energy about me, but I am very intentional with how my energy is experienced by other people. And unfortunately, this is something a lot of people don't do. They just go through life and they're just bumping up into people and they're just passing their issues to other people. And that's not really fair. Like, we have a responsibility to be mindful of how we're showing up and how are people experiencing us. Are they uplifted, or are they being drained? Are you an energy giver or an energy taker? And that's a huge practice of intentionality, is our energy management and how it's affecting other people. Because wouldn't you rather be an uplifter? Like, I just think that's just a lot nicer way to be. And the funny thing is, when you uplift others, they uplift you too, because it's not a scarcity of energy. You get to, like, the energy starts working with each other and you start spiraling up and getting better. And that's why when you get really clear on your people and you've got this great community, everything starts rising up. It's powerful. It's exponential. So I went through some very, very challenging experiences. So it was really interesting. I went through a period in my life where I ended up getting divorced, had some business failures. I was in a legal battle, lost a lot of money. And in that period, I went into a very, very dark place. And I'm really grateful that I had enough self-awareness to go, well, yes, a lot of things have happened to you, but you were directly involved with this. Like, you contributed to this. And yes, you might not have consciously wanted this or intentionally wanted this, but there was something happening that was contributing to it. So 5 years ago, I went through a very big period of self-awareness. And what was really confronting for me was I thought I had lived a life with intentionality. That was the challenge. Like, I had very clear visions. I'd been living my life with it. I was programming my habits, and I was really achieving a lot of it. And it still happened. And that was my greatest lesson, was you can be consciously believe that you're living with intentionality, but if your subconscious programs aren't working for you, they're always going to collapse. They're always going to cause problems. And what I uncovered was I was living intentionality with the foundations built on fear. It was all from a very young age. I had fear about the upbringing that I was in. I felt like I was abandoned, and that set off a chain of events where I went, well, I'm never going to.
Oh, I lost you. Lost your mic.
All right.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go.
Back. I think my microphone just died out.
All right.
So where I was sharing about is that I realized my foundations were built on fear, and the only way to actually live a life which was going to be peaceful and joyful was to have your foundations built on love. And that was the transition that I made over the last 5 years, is that how do I make sure that every decision I'm making is out of love rather than fear? And that's been a daily practice to me and a daily commitment. And energy management is certainly one of those things. The only thing I have direct influence over in my life is my energy. How do I show up? I can't control anyone else. I can't control the elements of the world, but I can choose how I respond to it rather than reacting. And that determines our energy. And that's been a practice of mine continuously, is looking at myself as almost a battery and going, am I charged up right now? And if I'm not charged up, what do I need to do? Well, maybe I need to do some breath. Maybe I need to get off my technology and go for a walk in nature, because nature's a natural charging force. Maybe I need to eat some really good food. There's so many ways we can get energy. But unfortunately, what happens is we just allow ourselves, our energy just to get leaked. And it's almost like a car light in a car, that little light. This happened to me just the other day. My battery in my car went dead. I was in Panama, and I realized one of the lights went on, and that battery wouldn't have really noticed that it was dying. It was such a small amount of energy just being leaked, just being taken. But eventually what happens? It all gets depleted and it's gone, and there's no way to start it back up again. And that's what happens with people who get burnt out. They get sick. They have these different things. It didn't happen suddenly. It happened very, very slowly. And then it seemed like it happened abruptly, but it was only because they just weren't being aware that they were allowing their energy to be leaked. And that's why I believe it's one of the most important principles of intentionality, is just be really clear of your energy.
You know, in a minute, I want to talk about pain, and I want to talk about, you know, that moment for you, and, you know, that trauma that you went through, and really kind of how to work through that in order to live an intentional life in just a second, because it's just not easy. I just know it isn't easy, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it in a second. Again, we've been on with Finnian Kelly. Man, if you're just listening to him, boy, he's got some great knowledge. And I also love the fact that he shared with us, you know, the personal things that he went through that kind of brought him to this place. Again, he's helping people all over the world. He's a keynote speaker. We actually spoke on the same stage just recently. And man, I'm just fired up and inspired. If you're looking for something, you know, if you're listening right now, if you're watching right now and you feel like, man, you know what? I'm not where I need to be. I need some help. I'm looking for something that I can live my life with purpose. A lot of people like to talk about. Go to Intentionality.com. Check out what Finnian is doing there. He has a course there. He has retreats as well. And, you know, just learn a little bit more about him and about what he's doing and how he can help you. Maybe you even have a friend or a loved one that just needs this, right? And they need something. And you know what? It's not a lot of money. It's about changing your life before it's too late. A lot of people get to the end of their lives and like, man, I call it if I had only syndrome. And if I'd only listened to Mike and Finnian on that one podcast, I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't do it because, you know, I had this going on and that going on, this going on. Look, the most important thing is you. If you're not right, then nothing else is right. So go to intentionality.com and check out what he's doing there. All right. I talk a lot about this, and I feel like one of the universal laws of success, unfortunately, is going through pain in order to just to really kind of see what you're made of. I've had people kind of tell me they don't believe that that's necessary, but I've had some pretty big names on the podcast, and everyone pretty much does agree that you're going to go through some shit in your life. And it's just really kind of how you decide you're going to handle it. So when you're going through that pain and that trauma, you have the divorce, you're in a legal battle, you're losing money. I've had all that stuff too, right, brother? It's difficult, man. It's difficult to get out of that funk. So does it come back to what we were talking about earlier, the self-awareness of like, shit, man, I have to get control of it. And if so, again, what should we do? I know we kind of talked about it, but I just think that, you heard my speech, right? A couple, whatever, last week or even this week. Like, I feel like so many people get hit so hard with such a painful, traumatic event or series of events, and then they just give up. And then intentionality, they don't even know what intentionality is. Am I making sense? I don't know. I feel like I might.
Yeah, you are. And it's funny, like pain, often we see pain as bad. But when we actually just see pain as an indicator that perhaps you just need some attention into this place. Like if we didn't have pain on our body, then we would do stupid things. Like we would literally break our bones and everything like that. It's a warning. It's a bit of a warning sign. Oh, you've just pushed this a little bit, or you're a little bit off track. You're not on your path at all. So that's the first thing which I want people to do is it's not a bad thing. It's just an indication. It's telling you, a little warning sign. Might not be the right path. The next, what we really need to do is send ourselves a lot of compassion. Like compassion is that loving, powerful force. And when anyone's going through these challenges, I don't want to undermine what they're going through. Like I don't want to just say, oh, it doesn't matter. Like these are big things. Like a lot of people are going through some very, very heavy things in life. And if I don't have compassion for them, then there's no connection. There's no chance for transformation, because compassion is a powerful feeling. So we need to learn the act of self-compassion and go, yeah, this does really suck, but like, you're a great guy. Like you're a great woman. You're going to be able to get through this. You've been in places like this before. You can do this. And what that does is it just gives you a little bit of energy effectively, where what a lot of people do in that moment, they go into blaming, complaining, defending, put themselves in shame. And all we're doing then is just lowering our energy source. What we're talking about before, that energy leak, we're leaking out more energy. And when we leak out more energy, we don't have the ability to then do the actions that are required to get out of that situation, because we're running on low. Right. So really being that practice of like, going, all right, what can I do to build up that energy? And then also something what I always reflect on, which gives me a little bit of energy in those moments. I look back at my life, and if you ask anyone to go, what were the most defining things in their life that got them to where they are when they were in success, they'll go back and they'll always say, oh yeah, it was that divorce. It was that financial loss. It was that injury. I am so grateful that I had that experience, because it defined me and I learned so much. And
isn't that crazy, man? Like, I say it all the time too. In my first book, the first line, it says, thank God I was born poor. Right. And, it's great. Like you and I are talking about it, but I always like, you've been through a lot of shit. So isn't everybody, right? I have too. And we talked again in my speeches, we all go through these things, and nobody wants to go through it, right? I'm starting to see now, which is driving me a little crazy. I'm starting to see people that are actually manufacturing adversity to actually put. I had a kid tell me, trying to sell me some stuff, and he was with a pretty big organization with a guy I know, and you know him too. He's pretty famous. And I said, wait a minute, you're doing all of this guy's social media, and I see what he's doing. Yeah, I've been doing that. And he goes, I left. I go, why'd you leave? He goes, well, I left because, I wanted to, feel what it was really like to be on my own. I'm like, what? I'm like, you're 23 years old. Like, what are you doing? Like, why would you intentionally put yourself through pain? That drives me crazy. People are just making stuff up. But I guess, again, it's like, when you're going through it, like in that very moment, like you and I can talk about it now. Like you just said, you can say, oh, I had a guy named Marcus Aurelius on. He wrote a book called The Power of Adversity. And, and he broke his back. He went through all this hell. And yeah, you look back on it and you're like, wow, I'm glad that happened. But as it's happening, right? When it's happening in that very moment, and you just kind of touched upon it again, maybe you could just expand on it a little bit more. Is it like, whoa, I got to just step back here and realize that this is only temporary, that I'm going to get through it? And is it a lot of just self-talk, right? Is that what it is? Like really kind of putting, like, I love how you give it, putting that energy into ourselves so that battery stays charged.
Yeah, there's a combination of that. Like one is, I agree, there are some people who are just creating pain for no reason. It makes no sense. But if we can get connected, if we know that when we've been through hardship, it's actually defined us and helped us and improved us, then in that moment, we can then also reflect, well, perhaps this is happening for us, not to us. Like maybe this is an opportunity to grow and expand. So that's one element. Then there's an element of just going, all right, how do I just boost my energy up? For sure. Like that needs to be super, super important. Focusing on that. And then there's an element of, yes, positive self-talk and being clear on the vision and getting connected to, okay, what is it that I want to feel? What life really matters? But at the same time, you have to be very practical. Like there's sometimes, like I went through this period, like I had a list of 16 things that I knew would give me a little bit of energy. And there was days where I didn't want to do one, but I knew that if I didn't, I wouldn't get through the day. And it was just a simple process where it was just like, okay, what's the next easiest thing I can do? Oh, I can go sit in the sun. Like I know if I sit in the sun, I get some energy. I could go for a walk. I could call up a friend. And I just would follow this process because sometimes it's so overwhelming. Like it's so confronting. It's so traumatic. There's a period where you need to make it a little bit easier for yourself and just step back and go, all right, what's the least thing I can do right now, which is going to just do a little bit of positive improvement. We don't need to change everything in a day. And that gives you, once again, it's compassion for yourself. It's giving yourself permission to go, I don't need to fix this right now. Like sometimes you just have to be with it and experience it. And there's great quotes. Like you can look at like one from Marcus Aurelius, the Roman Empire. Is
the real
like
Marcus Aurelius.
the real one. Only through the darkness can you see the stars is a great one to remind yourself. This moment shall pass. Like that's something I use all the time. A great spiritual phrase is just always reminding myself that everything is impermanent. Like nothing, just like the good times don't always stay the good times. Same with the bad times. Before you know it, things will change. And it's just that little reminder that nothing is permanent and you will get through this. And as long as you're alive, that's really all what matters. Like that's what's the thing is, like you're alive, you get a chance, you get another chance. And that's why I love sunrises and sunsets so much. It's a moment where like on a sunset, I just think about like what I'm grateful for and I really remember it. And then a sunrise is like, wow, I'm alive. Because every time you go to sleep, effectively, you're almost dying in some regard. Like there's a chance that you won't wake up. Like some people don't wake up from sleep. And if we can just have that connection in the first morning and the morning is like, wow, how lucky is it that I'm alive? Yes. How lucky is that I'm even getting to experience this pain right now? There's a lot of people who don't even get the opportunity to experience this pain. Suddenly that just gives you a bit of perspective and then you can get back playing with it. You can start playing with life again.
Wow, man. I think that is a great place to end it. Look, as long as you're alive, man, then you have an opportunity. I am super blessed that you were here and spent some time with us. Again, I hope you've listened to this entire thing. And if you haven't, I go back and listen to it again because the gems that Finnian dropped with us today are just truly, truly remarkable. And I love where it comes from. Look, he's gone through trauma as well. And, we all go through it. But as long as you're alive, you're going to see the light through the darkness, as Marcus Aurelius said. If you'd like some more information about Finnian, you can just go to Intentionality.com. You can also check out his website, FinnianKelly.com. It's FINNIAN Kelly.com. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes as well. Look, again, we talk a lot about this. And I have found that the only way I've been able to get through some of the difficult times of my life is seeking out advice of others that really know what they're doing, that have been through it before, that have helped others before. Finnian is one of those guys. We had an opportunity to share a stage just recently, and I was just super excited to see him because I knew he was coming on the podcast. The guy's a real deal. He's been helping people all over the world. He's actually, he's not in Australia now, but he's, from Australia. He's here in the States. So again, if you'd like some more information, go to Intentionality.com or check him out, FinnianKelly.com. Finnian, thanks so much for being here. My name is Mike Alden. That's Finnian Kelly, and we'll see you soon.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.